Hello, this is Mike, NoStressMike.com. Let's talk.
Yeah, I thought this would be a good time to mention handheld weapons. Many people, well, one thing, a lot of people, especially when they have firearms, they think that's all they need. And it's best when you know and understand all types of handheld weapons. Now, shit hits the fan in all different types of aspects. It could be something as simple as I say is your local community right there getting hit by a tornado, earthquake. Earthquake. That's what happens down here. And we have landslides and this type of stuff. And like I say, so a region of the area is affected. And when that happens, you don't really have the ability to travel very much. You're either going to be on foot or you are at somebody else's mercy. Now, that's a local shit hits the fan. They have a country could have shit hit the fan. Vietnam. I looked at that as shit hit the fan. Living in those kind of conditions and trying to make a living, you got to remember, even when there is war and your country is torn apart by war, you still have to produce. You need, personally, you need your own, needs need to be taken care of. And then you have family and you have your friends. So you will always have to be producing. In war, it's less likely you're going to have the job that you have now. Factory jobs, office jobs, all this kind of stuff, they still have them. They're not, they're more government controlled, and so it's a little different. And so shit can hit the fan in a country. And don't think that the United States is too big and it's not going to happen. I mean, after all, Russia already went through all this. But and Brazil, they did it a few years back. I think 100 years ago, Brazil was one of the biggest economic countries in the world. So things change, and they can change pretty rapidly. And the way it looks, we could even have a world shit hits the fan. More than likely, if there was a world shit hit the fan and you're in whatever city or town you are in the United States, you probably don't give a damn about the rest of the world when the shit hits the fan. You're going to be worried about yourself. And so the reason I'm mentioning all this is there could be a time when you are going to have to move from one point to another point, whether it's a local shit hit the fan, regional, country, or whatever. You're going to have to go from one point to another. A lot of people think they have firearms and that's going to do it. Firearms and you traveling will not work. A good example is being down here. try to travel with a firearm. It's not that easy, and it's not to your benefit. But handheld weapons is something you're going to have to consider, and you're going to have to consider real seriously. Now, before I get into some of the handheld weapons and why, the one firearm I tell everybody to have is a hammerless Smith & Wesson Airway 38 revolver. It's a little dinky thing. And the reason I tell people you need that is that goes in your pocket. It can be shot out of your pocket. And you don't bring it out, you don't show anybody, it's only at the last resort. And but this is why I tell people that if you don't have any firearm at all, you need to have that. Even if you don't like firearms, you need to get that. This is one of these things that you really have to have. It's useful, and it keeps people away from you. But before we get to that point, when you're going from one point to another, you need to have something, some kind of handheld weapon. It could be as simple as a stick, like a cane. It could be that simple. Anytime you have any type of a weapon, that is a sign that you are not a victim. If you don't have any weapon, not even a stick, you look like a victim. And when you look like a victim, you will be victimized. And if you think you're going to walk around carrying a firearm, it's not going to work. That's why handheld weapons are important. You could have a machete. Now, I understand this machete is a little different than most machetes that most people are used to seeing. And but anyway, a machete. In other words, when you're walking along carrying a machete, that says that you are not a victim. So something as simple as a machete would work. Now, I've been working now with tomahawk. I try to learn all kinds of weapons because it depends on what it is I'm able to get my hands on. And there's a use for all of these. When you are holding a weapon, even if it's a handheld weapon, everybody stays away from you. So, handheld weapon is something to consider. Even a knife. The bigger the handheld weapon, really the better. Or sharper. A sharp handheld weapon. Anything that's kind of looks a little scary, people will stay away from you. And that's the idea, is we want them to stay away from you. Now, so you need to familiarize yourself with handheld weapons. They're inexpensive, they don't run out of bullets, they're easy to maintain, and more than likely they're going to get you from one point to another point. Whether that point is in town and you're trying to get back to your house, or you are at your house and you need to get out of town. When it's time to get out of town, in Vietnam, people didn't have, wheels to get out of town. You were really at everybody's mercies. The roads get jammed up, and so it's going to be a little tough getting out. And that's providing if you're smart enough to have a place to go, and if you already made arrangements. But so when you're gone, you need to have some type of a handheld weapon Now, if you're the man of the house, at the minimum, you're going to be needing a handheld weapon and the .38 hammerless. Now, if I had all my rathers, I'd rather have everyone, except for maybe the small children, will have a hammerless .38, and then, like I say, we'll be carrying, and everyone will be carrying some type of a handheld weapon. And you will find yourself learning how to travel. And when you're doing this traveling, you have to appear like you're not here to be victimized. And you don't want no trouble, you just want to move on. Handheld weapons are the best thing you can use to illustrate that. So keep that in mind and think on how you're going to use handheld weapons. Now, another thing to keep in mind is I have noticed that people that are into violence or into weapons, they have more than one weapon. So just like you would be walking along with your machete, I would be in fear that you would have a hammerless .38 in your pocket. Most people don't think about that stuff. They just go by their visual. They see you with their machete, they just think about that. But I think of more than that. If it gets down to the nitty-gritty, like I say, they have firearms. And if they do choose to come in close, in which if they're smart, they don't come in close, they keep their distance, because anybody that has any sense knows handheld weapons are dangerous. The only difference between the handheld weapons and firearms is the range. Handheld weapons, they're limited on their range compared to firearms. So you want to keep your distance. Now, if your threat chooses not to keep the distance, chooses to come up close, and they have a firearm, that's when you shoot out of your pocket, and then you take their firearm and you use their firearm. That's the time you use your .38. Other than that, you don't display it, you don't show them. Down here, they will, as I travel, they'll go through my stuff, and when they see knives, sticks, like I say, the tomahawks and stuff like that, they frown upon it. But like I say, they have firearms, and they realize that being down here, especially when you're off the road, I mean, you saw me traveling on the highways, one thing, but you get off the highways, you're off in the jungle somewhere, and that is shit hits the fan. That is a lifestyle in itself when you get off that highway. So normally they'll see these things. They might hold it up and show their friends, show the other ones, but more than likely they're going to leave it at that. Now, if I sense it's going to be even worse, I do carry a pocket knife. So what I say, people that know anything about violence and are into weapons carry more than one. So I speak with experience. But anyway, keep all this in mind, because you may want to be just on foot trying to get to your house. You may be on foot trying to get out of town to a prearranged place. You might be by yourself. You might be with others. You might be with family. So familiarize yourself with handheld weapons, and prepare. This is Mike, NoStressMike.com.